Hello, everyone. Today I'm going to share with you a little bit more about Latin America. So, remind me how many of you will be in Argentina? Okay. And how many of you have been to Latin America? Okay. Sounds great. So a brief intro, I'm Riely, now working on EcoDev at Geode. Previously spent the past 3 years working on EcoDev at EF, and then earlier this year we just spun out. So at the New York, we give grants, and then we also build digital studio products at the New York. All right, so today I'm going to share a little bit more about Latin America's Ethereum ecosystem, starting with a little bit more on the macro context, both politically and economically. Some of the problem existed, and then going to share a little bit more about the use cases in Mexico, Brazil, Argentina, and then we'll share a little bit more opportunities for Ethereum builders and developers. I assume many of you here are developers and builders. All right, so start with some quick quizzes. So, okay, the first one. So, which Latin American countries experienced hyperinflation in the past 10 years and is now one of the fastest adopting crypto markets? So, A is Brazil, B is Mexico, C is Argentina, and then D is El Salvador. C? C? Okay. Okay. D. Okay. Okay. The right answer is C. Okay, in Argentina. Okay, El Salvador, they did suffer hyperinflation, but that's 20, 30 years ago. Yeah. Okay. Number two, which Latin America countries is ranked highest in the 2022 Global Crypto Adoption Index among all the options below? A is Brazil, B is Mexico, C is Argentina, and D is El Salvador. C? Argentina? A? Okay. You? C? No. Okay. The correct answer is Brazil. So Brazil is leading the Latin America's crypto adoption, actually. Argentina is very on the top, but it's not the highest. Okay, so let's take a quick look at the global crypto adoption. So from Latin America. So if you take a look, Brazil is leading, and then there's Venezuela. All of us know it also suffers a lot of inflation stuff, and then goes to the Mexico, and then Argentina. So Argentina is on top, but not the top. Okay. Then I'm going to share a little bit more on why Latin America is interesting. So seems not many of you have been to Latin America, and just sharing a little bit more context. So many of the countries in Latin America, like Argentina, Venezuela, El Salvador also suffers very high inflation. There is a currency volatility, a lot of capital controls, which leads to stronger demand for stablecoin and digital assets. So an example would be in Argentina. There's very high inflation in 2023 and 2024, which is more than 100% in the recent years, which driving a lot of crypto stablecoin usages. And then in countries like Brazil and also Argentina, the fintech infrastructure is there and is actually growing pretty fast. There's very high smartphone penetration, but also at the same time, the legacy banking infrastructure is often pretty weak. A very interesting number, about a quarter of Latin America actually don't have a bank account. Like around 40% of the people, the adults in Mexico, are underbanked or no bank. So, and it is also one of the world's top remittances corridors. A lot of unicorns in Brazil, in Argentina. There's a very entrepreneur and tech-forward culture there. And also, historically, there are distrust towards the government and institutions, a lot of corruptions, political instability, and financial mismanagement. So many citizens, they do distrust the institutions. And then why Ethereum? Everyone here understand? how Ethereum works? Pretty much. Okay, seems good. Okay, then maybe I don't really need to talk about this. Okay, so there's stablecoin liquidity. Ethereum is a home of stablecoin, and the major stablecoins used to protect savings from the inflations. More liquidity leads to better pricing, easier transfers, stronger adoption. There's very strong and off and ramp support from like big exchanges like Bitso, Ripio, Mercado Bitcoin, Nubank. This trust and brand. So I guess everyone here heard about Bitcoin, and then Ethereum comes next. There's a very large developer ecosystem and app ecosystem as well. And then there are cheaper fees nowadays with L2s. Okay, not going to dive too much deep. And then we'll start with Mexico. So one thing when you think about Mexico, the words related probably would be remittances. So if you just look at the growth of the remittances market in Latin America, it's like really just crazy. And then Mexico, on the other side, is ranking actually top 2 globally among all the countries with the highest remittances corridor transaction volumes. So yeah, just in the past 5 years, if you look at the numbers, its growth is tremendous. And if you compare, the volumes with remittances and oil exports and the FDI, it's actually more than oil exports and FDI. So in Mexico, it's huge. The personal remittances received percentage of GDP, it's pretty much close to 4%, like while rest of the world, it's like pretty much close to 1% in most of the countries. And then take a look at the scale of the Mexico's remittances economy. So as shared, it's ranked number 2 in the world. It's the second largest remittances recipients globally, and it received 64.9 billion in 2024, and which is 3.7 of the GDP, which means millions of families depends on those transfers at their primary income. And then if you, especially for those like people who are born from very poor families, that can help us a lot. And then compare a little bit more with the traditional remittances. So the traditional way, it's pretty much close to 5% of the fees for just the 200 transfers via Western Union or MoneyGram. It would take 1 to 3 days to arrive. The processing time is T+2. And then there's a physical location requirements. You have to be there at the store to pick it. And then there's also the documentation barriers, like the 40% people from the Mexican, many of them is due to lacking of the documentations. And then there's hidden FX marks as well. So if you take a look at the average cost for remittances, it's close to kind of like 5.78, which is pretty high. Okay, then Ethereum, on the other side, several benefits. It reduces the logistics barriers. You don't have to be at the shop. You don't have to wait there. It reduces a lot of logistics barriers. And then there's immediate availability of the funds. You send and then you probably receive like in seconds. And then the stablecoin transfer offer price stability, dollar access, and it's kind of like universal. Whether you're from Berlin or from Argentina, you can send this like immediately. The cost was, thanks to all the L2s, like largely reduced. So the total cost is like below 3% in general, and then that's a big cost of savings compared to the traditional channels. Yeah, so one of the biggest players in the Mexico's crypto market would be Bitso, which is actually an exchange. It's the largest crypto, one of the first and one of the largest crypto unicorns in Latin America. And it operates in Mexico, Brazil, Argentina, and Colombia. It has 9 million retail users in Latin America. And just in Mexico one country alone, it has 4.4 million. If you look at the growth trajectory towards handling the remittances, in 2024, it processed 6.5 billion dollars, which is more than 10% of the total remittances volumes between the U.S. and the Mexico corridor. At the same time, they also partners with L2s. They partner with Arbitrum on launching a local stablecoin called MaxMB, which is for on-chain payments, payrolls, and remittances. Okay, so let's take a look at what are the people holding and buying. So it's no longer just about trading. So if you take a look, there's, Bitcoin is on top. And then after that, it's not, a lot of meme coins, but on top of meme coins, there's a stable coin. USDC and the USDT are pretty popular. ETH is pretty popular, and then Bitcoin. So people use stablecoin as a saving in dollars, seeking better currency conversions, earn yields and savings, send money internationally rather than just purely trading. All right, next one, Brazil. So I think a few months ago, in July, I was reading this article by Paul Krugman, which is one of the Nobel Prize. He was talking, has Brazil invented the future of money? And then I was thinking, in the Ethereum ecosystem, in crypto, we say, ETH is the future of the money. Then I was like, how could these two compare? And then he was criticizing, he's saying, Pix is actually inventing the future of money and achieving what the cryptocurrency, boasters have claimed, through blockchain, low transaction cost, and whatever. And he's saying, Pix also doesn't create an incentive to kidnap people, which I disagree, and torture them until they give up on the crypto keys. That's a little bit crazy. So how many of you heard about Pix? Two. So I can explain a little bit. So TLDR Pix is an instant payment solution from Brazil. It's mobile first. It's free for individuals, and the cost is ultra low for merchants. And then just in 2024, it transacted 1.5 trillion dollars, which is a lot of money. And then 42, if you look at them. Just at the percentage of people, the payments in Brazil, Pix is actually close to 50%. It's 42% of all the digital payments in Brazil, and it is more popular than cash and cards combined already, which is super cool. Next one. So, Pix is great. We can do both Pix and Ethereum. You don't have to only Pix or only Ethereum. So Ethereum can help. The Pix solves with largely the payment problems, but it does not really help with the broader financial markets, like trading of stocks, bonds, funds, properties, and other assets. In Brazil now, they still continue to operate under the strict 8 to 5 times, and often require multiple intermediaries, and the settlement is pretty slow and costly. Ethereum can largely solve that. Also, Pix is permissioned solution. It requires central bank approval for integrations, while for Ethereum, basically anyone can build without permission. There's asset ownership, largely your keys, your money, and then the Pix also offers you the global accessibility. If you want to use Pix, you have to have a Brazilian bank account, and then, for Ethereum, just need to create a wallet in a second. Then next, how many of you heard about Durex, Brazil CBDC? Usually people would think, CBDC not that much related with Ethereum. Brazil is an exception. So Brazil CBDC, Durex is Brazil's CBDC, the name. Basically, it combines both the central bank control and also with the programmable features. So it was built on a private permission version of Ethereum, which is Hyperledger Basu. I guess many of you are familiar with that. So primarily the use was for tokenizing, government debts, and hopefully eventually it will include trade finance, interbank settlement, tokenization of receivables, and more. Like their goal is largely, like unlock whatever new products or services for smart contracts and tokenized assets across Brazil's financial system. But it failed. Okay, so they recently abandoned the blockchain for the direct CBDC projects. It is not a failure. I think we learned a lot from that. Largely, the thing is about the direct trilemma, solving all for privacy, scaling, and programmability with a decentralized, albeit permissioned, environment. So, be more specific, the challenge at the hand was basically to ensure the level of privacy as to complying with Brazil's data protection laws, while at the same time you given the central bank supervisory node for visibility. So, but you don't want to, without breaking the composability. So they tried several solutions. They tried Rails, which is developed by the infrastructure firm Parfin. And then they also tried Sasser, which is developed by JP Morgan and Consensus. They also tried the EY Starlight. But sadly, either it doesn't work or it's just it kind of serves for basic functions, but it's just too costly. But you learned a lesson. Privacy is very important. So I think this April, Vitalik and PSC and a bunch of folks, they share this privacy roadmap. It's privacy read, privacy write, and so on. So if you're interested in privacy, take a look. Okay, next one, Argentina. Starting with a little bit political view. So there's some public trust there happening in Argentina for a while. The corruption rate is high. There's high inflation in Argentina. In extreme times, you want to buy something, maybe today you're very busy, and the second day, the price is different already. It is a little bit difficult for the rest of the world to imagine, but it is happening. Now it's largely in control, but 2 years ago, it is pretty crazy. So Argentina closed in 2023 with an annual inflation rate of more than 200, the highest in over 30 years. If you're holding Argentinian peso, you have to figure out a way to think about the inflation and then how to protect your money. And then at the same time, they also have the strict foreign exchange control. If no, then you can just exchange whatever currency you want, but you can't. At the same time, because of that, there are different types of dollars as well, and exchange rates. There's official exchange rate. There are savers exchange rate. There are blue dollars. There's even in extreme time, there are Coldplay dollars during the Coldplay concert. So now it's largely kind of getting better, but it was a thing 2 years ago. Okay. So, and then if you take a look, stablecoin make a lot of sense. If you take a look on all the transactions volumes for the retails, in Argentina, stablecoin is taking a large percentage. It's among the top. It's at 61%, which is pretty high. If you compare it to Bitcoin, ETH, and altcoin, people are using it for daily necessities. Okay, so here's another chart with stablecoin trading volumes keep growing, and then the USD and Argentina peso keep going down. Okay, then next, share a little bit more beyond financial use cases. There's a Quark ID. Any of you heard about Quark ID? Okay, okay then. So TLDR, what is Quark ID? Quark ID is a digital identity system. The like decentralized digital identity system, which is led by the government of city of Buenos Aires, and then they collaborated with several dev shops. So they use blockchain for the security. They collaborated with zkSync and Polygon, and then they're using Ethereum for anchoring the trust framework in the networks. And then they're also using zero knowledge proofs, which basically allow users to prove they have certain information without really you have to reviewing actual data. And it's open source and interpretable. Like if you're institutions, you can just use it without any restrictions. How it is better is way secure. It is way efficient. It saves a lot of cost. You don't have to spend several hours waiting at the hall and waiting for people to issue you all the IDs. And then at the same time, if you just look at the numbers, just like by integrating the ecosystem, a single government department with 200 inspectors have saved just like more than $5,000 in physical credentials alone. How does it work? You can take a quick look. And then just in a month, it onboarded 230,000 citizens, which is more than 6% of the eligible population. It is the first city actually in the world to incorporate like blockchain into its identity system. Like a lot of government are talking about decentralized digital ID systems, but none of them actually like implemented it. But Argentina, they did it. Next one, go share a little bit more about communities. It's a community event. So if you're going to Argentina and then you're interested in hanging out with locals, here are a bunch of local communities that you can hang out with. They've been building the ecosystem for a long time, especially like Ethereum Argentina, Crecimiento, Seed.org, Esquipu. Several of them, they have their co-working space, and then you can stop there and have fun. So, and if you are interested in understanding a little bit more about Argentina, Mexico, and Brazil, what's going on in the local Ethereum ecosystem there, I wrote several articles about it in our blog called Local Ethereum, and then you can take a look and then feel free to subscribe it. We cover regional ecosystem intelligence around the globe. Next one, just some quick challenges and opportunities. Many of you probably are familiar with some, but some of the ideas would be infrastructures still is a problem, gas fees, onboarding, UI, UX, those are kind of like still matters. EF has put in improving the UI UX, one of the goals, and on and off ramp complexity and outdated regulatory framework is also a problem. Language, Spanish and Portuguese, and that's very different than English. And you already saw the Mexico local stablecoin, but still the liquidity is still limited. There's limited institutional connections, the local crypto communities, and then again, privacy, very important. Next one would be basically hope to see you in Argentina. I think Annika already shared a bunch of information. And then next, a little bit bonus. I think many of you are hackers or hackers by heart. So there's an interesting place, a hacker house called Casa Volatile in Argentina. They actually have produced some of the most valuable crypto companies in Argentina. I saw Santiago recently shared his crypto journey. He's like crypto OG in Argentina, and then he shared his story also starts with this house. There's a co-working, and then it produced some of the best startups like OpenZapling, Decentraland, Nomic, Moo wallets. So if you are going to be in Argentina, this can be an interesting place to visit. And I guess thank you for listening. Yeah. All right.
Are there any questions?
I have a question. Yeah. So is it only Ethereum or L2 is dominating there?
L2s and Ethereum. Like, okay, Tron is has a big presence, but L2s and Ethereum are now catching up.
L2 is like standing out.
Base is doing pretty good, and zk-Sync is doing well. Arbitrum is leading largely, because they have the collaboration with BitSol, which is like one of the local exchanges, and they offer a lot of the on and off-ramp solutions. Yeah.
So what's the trade for someone visiting Argentina? Bring a suitcase full of dollars, or what's?
We were just talking with Raul. Maybe Raul, this is a good question for you. Bring a big wallet.
In general, what's better is with USD in cash, and then you can exchange it for the blue USD, which is a bit higher than the official. As a foreigner, you won't have any restrictions to do so. You just have to be careful where you do it. And if not, crypto also works in the places where you can exchange USD. You can also exchange stablecoins in general, or any crypto that is accepted there. In general, all of them are. Credit card, debit cards you can use. In general, ATMs don't work that much for international cards. For payments directly, they do, but they will take the official USD rate, and you will lose in comparison to paying in cash, and you can get discounts if you pay in cash as well. So in general, it is preferable if you take stables or crypto in a wallet, or cash, US dollars, not euros. Euros you can do as well, but USD is better.
Is there like a premium on crypto on exchanges, or how does the kind of capital controls play out in prices? Like,
Say again.
Is there a premium to crypto prices, like how there used to be in Korea back in the day? You know, since you had to have a Korean bank account to open an exchange in Korea. Is there something similar in Argentina where there's like a premium on things?
No,
for
not that I'm
cash?
aware of. No.
So you cannot really do arbitrage nowadays.
For checking applications like Velo app or Ripio, they might have this. Yeah, those are in general quite used applications. In Argentina, they include mobile wallets.
All right. Oh.
Question, why are you so specialized in Latin America? Just really because of this event? Or?
Oh no, I am actually not just specialized in Latin America. We come global, but then many of you are going to Argentina, and I assume many of you haven't been to Latin America before. So just give you a little bit more context, because I think it's very different than Berlin, very different than Asia, than a lot of parts of the world. Yeah.
So Riely's been doing a lot of ecosystem development support over the years. So they've been exploring a lot of different regions around the world. So she knows a lot about other regions too. Like she could probably do the same presentation. If you're interested, then feel free to stick around. Okay. But thank you so much, and thanks everyone. And Full Node again for hosting us. And yeah, feel free to stick around for a little longer, just for chat. And there were some drinks. So yeah. And then we'll probably wrap up around 9 the latest. Yep. Cool. Thank you.
Thank you.